The real value of routines and the hidden cost of flexibility. Today, we're busting one of the biggest myths about autism, that we are supposedly rigid and inflexible. But that myth masks the hidden toll of conforming to social norms, which leads so many of us into masking, burnout, and executive function fatigue. The truth is, we can be both too rigid and too flexible at the same time, and the trick to finding the perfect balance is to recognize the real value of routines and the hidden cost of flexibility. Hi everyone, Paul Micallef here from Autism from the Inside. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So, the real value of routines. You may notice that I say basically the same thing at the start of every video. Why is that? It doesn't need to be the same every time, but it also doesn't need to be different every time either. So, doing it the same every time saves me a whole lot of energy. Do you like my new video background? What do you think? Well, you'll probably think, hey Paul, it looks basically identical to your old video background. And that's because, yep, why reinvent the wheel when I can very easily do exactly the same thing? It was working before, why change it now? In my recent video on monotropism, I talked about how when I first came up with this video background, I spent several days just thinking about it, trying to figure out what the best solution was. It was a huge investment of my time and energy, and psychologically, I knew that once I got it right, then I could leverage that for a long time to come. And not only was I able to use exactly the same video background for like a year and a half, but some of you may know that I had to move house recently, and voila, same video background, I was basically able to replicate an identical setup in a completely new situation because I put so much thought into it in the beginning. So we'll come back to more examples of this, but one of the major advantages of setting up routines is that they are extremely efficient and can save us a whole bunch of time and energy. Let's look at the flip side for a minute though. The hidden cost of flexibility is creating a new solution from scratch every time. Unfamiliar environments require more processing. When I walk around my own house or my own city or other very familiar environments, I don't notice 99% of the details that are around me because they're the same every day and I don't need to pay attention to them. When I'm in new environments, doing new things or unfamiliar things, there's so much more information that my brain has access to that I tend to pay attention to a lot of those details. Attention to detail is both a strength and a weakness at the same time. It means I notice a lot more, which can really come in handy, but it also means in new environments, I have a lot more information to try and process in my brain. Processing information takes time and energy. This is why new things are often difficult. In familiar environments, my brain has built shortcuts to not need as much energy. When I don't have a routine, when I don't have a default solution, my brain has to evaluate all of the possible solutions. Sometimes there's a near infinite amount of possibilities, and that's the hidden cost of being flexible. I mentioned earlier that we're going to bust the myth that autistic people are rigid and inflexible. What I'm going to suggest instead is that I am so flexible in every situation that there is no normal. I don't have a default in a new situation, which means I can be incredibly flexible, incredibly open-minded. This used to get me in trouble when I was younger. Adults would ask me an obvious question that they thought had one obvious answer, and I would answer, I don't know, which they interpreted as me pretending to be dumb. How could I not know the answer to such a simple question? In reality, I could think of about half a dozen different plausible answers to that one question, but because none of them stuck out as the one obvious answer, my answer was, well, I don't know what the answer you're looking for here. I can think of too many. Just tell me what you want me to understand here. So one way of understanding the autistic mind is that we're not programmed with a normal, especially in unfamiliar environments. I don't always intuitively get the sense of one thing to do, which means my brain spends a lot of time and energy trying to use the information at my disposal, which is a lot of it because I absorb a lot of it, to build from scratch, from the ground up, my best guess as to what to do in this new situation. And the flip side of that, which is probably why we have the stereotype that autistic people are very rigid, is that once I find a solution that works, I like to stick to it. If it's not broken, why fix it? It took me so long, it took me 3 full working days to figure out how to make this YouTube background. Am I going to invest another 3 full days of my time and attention to change it for no reason? This is probably one of the biggest misconceptions, something a lot of people just don't understand. The hidden cost of flexibility is the need to make many tiny little decisions, all of which sap my executive function resources. I was once homeless by choice for about 1.5 years, basically backpacking and couch surfing my way all through Europe. I was moving cities every 2 or 3 days for 1.5 years. That is a lot of new information every day. I remember signing off an email to my friends and family back home early on saying, well, I better go, food and shelter don't just find themselves. Every day required solving little problems like, how do I make myself a cup of tea? Where are the cups in this kitchen? Where are the spoons? How do I get hot water? Is there one on tap? Do I need to boil a kettle? Do they even have a kettle? What's the kitchen like in this hostel? Can I cook myself some food? Do they have pots and pans? Oh, they've got a great kitchen and no utensils. Solving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tiny little problems every day. It was actually a running joke I had with myself because, of course, I made jokes with myself. Every time I made a mistake, I would say, oh well, I'll know for next time, knowing full well that I will never be in this supermarket in this part of rural Poland again. In Australia, if you want to buy fruit and veg from the supermarket, you just take it to the checkout and then they scan it for you and they weigh it on the spot. In a lot of countries I visited, you were actually supposed to remember the code and type it in and print a little receipt for yourself and stick it on the piece of fruit so that when you get to the front, they just scan the barcode. How was I supposed to know that? So many tiny little examples of, oh, this is not exactly what I was expecting. And the feedback that I was getting from people at the time is, why are you so tired all the time? Aren't you on holiday? Traveling is not the same as being on holiday. And I didn't realize it myself at the time, but having such a huge amount of new information every day takes a huge amount of energy. There was no way I could be productive in any typical sense of the word. The work I was doing every day was things like, let's find a supermarket. Let's find a place to sleep tonight. Let's figure out this new machine in a foreign language to buy a train ticket. So that's the hidden cost of flexibility, constantly having to solve these little problems. I've eaten the same breakfast basically every day for more than 10 years. Why? Because it's extremely efficient. I know exactly what I'm going to get. I know I'm going to like it. I know it's going to be good for my body. I know it's going to give me energy. I don't need to think where are the things in the supermarket because I go to the same supermarket around the corner from my house, walk the same route every time. 1, 2, 3 items, done. Routines save energy. It's the same with clothes or shoes. I have one pair of shoes. They work great in basically every situation. And you know what happens when they wear out? I buy exactly the same pair of shoes again. I've found a solution that works. Why would I change it? Buying the same pair of shoes over and over again saves me a huge amount of executive function in trying to look for a new solution. And here's one that people might not always think of in terms of routines. But social scripts are effectively a routine that works in social situations. The one advantage of small talk is it's relatively predictable. In familiar situations, I know the types of questions that people are likely to ask me, and because I've been there so many times before, I'm quite practiced at guiding the conversation into a way that suits me. If I have a response that I prepared earlier that is perfectly good for this situation, why would I try and come up with a new one just because? Most people I meet have absolutely no idea how much of my social scripts have been prepared in advance. It's almost like a sales pitch. If I have a job knocking door to door and trying to deliver the same information to 1,000 people, I'm going to figure out a way that tends to work really well, that suits me really well, that feels really natural to me. And then after knocking on 100 doors, my script is basically in muscle memory already. Surely that's a normal, healthy thing to do.
Good afternoon, sir. Could we interest you in some chocolate?
So, ironically, because a lot of us are so flexible, and because of the hidden cost of being so flexible, We need structure, stability, routine, and therefore we often appear rigid and inflexible to others, whereas actually the reason I do the same thing every time is because there's such a huge amount of value in my routines in terms of the energy that it saves me on a daily basis. If I wear the same thing every day, that's one less decision I need to make. And if I automate a significant portion of my life, food, clothes, work routines, social scripts, it all compounds on each other to give me more and more energy to focus my creativity on something that's actually worthwhile instead of constantly masking doing what society tells me I should be doing, what others might consider normal, all the time ignoring the hidden toll on my executive function that is slowly driving me to burnout. So are autistic people actually rigid and inflexible? A lot of us certainly look like that on the outside, but in reality, a lot of the reason that many of us rely on those kind of routines is because of all the hidden demands that most people don't see. After dealing with all the additional stuff that comes with being autistic, I don't have that much energy left over. I have to be fairly prudent with how I use my time and energy. And especially trying to fit myself into neuronormative standards is unlikely to be a good solution. Which means when I find something that is both acceptable to me and also a good functional solution for the world around me, then great, lock it in. Let's have the same breakfast every day for 10 years. Something else people often don't realize about this topic is that there is so much value to be found in routines, which means, again, ironically, the more structure and stability I've managed to create for myself, the more energy I've saved, and therefore the more able I am to be flexible when I need to be. If I'm not coping, I can't be flexible. I just don't have the resources. But if, thanks to the structure and routines that I've built for myself, I actually do have some energy left over, then fantastic, I can actually spend that on something new and something interesting. How was I backpacking and couch surfing a new city every 2 or 3 days for a year and a half? Well, I wasn't working. I cut back on so many other things in my life so that I had the energy to pay the hidden toll of being flexible. Anyway, I should leave it there. One of the routines that I'm very happy with recently at Autism from the Inside is not only the weekly video premiere time, which means you can jump on and watch the latest video as it premieres live at the same time every week, but we also have a monthly webinar with a different topic each month, plus regular autistic social hangouts that are also free for AFTI members. So if you haven't seen the AFTI website yet, you might want to take a look around. Free access to all those live events is just one of the perks of being a member. So you might want to check out the full list of perks if you haven't already. So thanks again for watching today. As usual, please leave a comment if you can. I'd love to hear what you think. Shout out to all the regulars who are watching this premiere live, and I will see you again next week. Bye.